My name is Tzadik HaNachash. I'm the founder of Eartwalk. We are a global organization with the mission, in short, to create a world of peace. What I figured I would share with everyone today is a process that we call the Pathway to Peace process. And what that is in essence, we've broken down to the core with different steps of how anyone can create a life of peace for yourself, and how you can also contribute your gift or gifts to the world as a part of the collective process towards creating a world of peace. And so before I go into the process itself, just going to give a little bit of a overview of Earthwalk itself, so it kind of fits within the context, and there's some understanding of some of the languaging that I'm using. So as I had mentioned, Earthwalk is a global organization, and it has a platform which contains 13 main components. And all 13 of the main components of that platform are utilized to help support, whether it's an individual or group or business organization, all the way up to nation states and even global religious groups, if you will, cultures, you name it, how to move from where we are currently to a state of peace. So one, as a planet, but also as individuals, groups, and all those different entities that I spoke of. So the deep question is, and how do we move from point A to point B? And is it really realistic to say that it's the exact same process for you, for me, for a business, for an organization, for a city, a state, a nation state, a religious group, you name it? And what we found for us, the answer was yes. That moving from where we are to a state of deeper integration, which is the way that we define peace in essence. Peace is that place where we are able to be in touch with all of our parts, so to be in touch with everything that's going on, and then from that place to be able to navigate with all of that from a space of peace and harmony and wellness. So if we're interacting with the world and the world's knocking us over and we're not able to be in a healthy relationship, but rather we're in a codependent relationship with the world, that tends to not create states of well-being, states of peace, states of love. If we are able to be in a healthy interdependent relationship with the world, whether that's as an individual, as a group, as a nation. If you look at United States, for example, and a lot of the criticism there, if the United States, as an example, as a nation, is in an interdependent relationship with the rest of the planet, meaning they respect other nations, they respect the feedback and the influence and the power of other nations, and view that roundtable with the other nations as a place of equality, more than likely they will be creating a relations of peace with those other nations and with the rest of the world. If, however, they're in a codependent relationship or an independent dynamic that is not truly relational, that can cause some major disruption, major disease, as I think a lot of us have spoken to as speaking from our experience in this nation. And so how does a country move from a relationship that is codependent or independent as opposed to interdependent, that they are in a place of healthy relations? That is the whole entire discourse of the Pathway to Peace process. And so before going to that global scale and the national conversation, the global conversation, the religions of the world conversation, which all are extremely important, Earthwalk breaks it down to something really essential and basic. And what that is in essence is that there is one poison and one cure. And what we mean by that is as soon as we believe ourselves to be separate, to be other, to be apart from the rest of the whole, as soon as we get into that delusional thinking, the net result of that is fracturing. It is disease. It is pain. So when we feel separate from ourselves, or we feel separate from others, our nation state, our planet, the universe, when we begin to feel separate, that is the root cause of all disease. It's the root cause of all social dysfunction. It's the root cause of all the pain and suffering that really exists on this planet. If we're to boil down and look at all the different diseases that happen on this earth, we can trace that back to that moment when we began to believe we were separate. If someone did something to us as a kid and we felt hurt by it, and then the stories we told ourselves in our mind, and then the patterns we created in our life that removed ourselves from feeling connected, that's the source point. And that can be brought all the way up to nation states, religions, you name it. If you look at a lot of the dysfunction in a lot of modern religions, it's not because religion by its nature established religion is by its very nature dysfunctional. That's not true at all. I don't believe that. But when we come together for a spiritual experience and it's based in codependency as opposed to interdependence, then we get a lot of dysfunctional religions, religious experiences. And so the Pathway to Peace process also speaks to religious groups on how we go from a dysfunctional state of a religious experience, so which we define a religious experience as when more than one person decides to have a spiritual experience together. So a space where we are inspired. So if we decide to get thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people together for a collective spiritual experience, that is what we define as religion. It's a space where we come together collectively to have a spiritual experience, have an experience of connectivity. And so that can be experienced in healthy ways or not so healthy ways. And so rolling back to the conversation of you have the poison and the cure. So if the sense of being disconnected is the poison, what's the cure? And so the obvious response is connection. And so at the core of Earthwalk is what we call conscious connection. So where we're learning how to connect with others from a place of heart, from a place of reciprocity, from a place of love, in essence. And love being that place of reciprocity, where there's an even give and take and an honoring that happens that truly allows for all of us to flourish, all of us to be truly who we are in an interdependent co-reality, co-arising with one another. So from that perspective, all the diseases of the world can be healed simply by getting at the root cause of what is causing the sense of disconnect and what do we need to do to feel reconnected again. Because again, it's all in our minds. All of our social diseases, all of our social patterns, religious patterns, national patterns, they come from a thought that we believe something. Let's say our relationship to the earth, we believe ourselves to be separate. Humans are better or worse than the rest of nature. And then based off of that thought, we create a whole entire reality. And we separate ourselves from nature and we start creating from that all sorts of environmental destruction and disease and all that stuff. So what would happen if we start reevaluating that thought and start creating a philosophy where we actually do not see ourselves as separate from nature and then begin to create the patterns that bring us back into harmony with nature? And we can say the same thing again, whether that's on the national level or religious level, interspecial, so like humans with the rest of the planet. At that core, it comes down to where did we begin the thought of feeling disconnected and what needs to happen to bring us back to a state of connection. And that's different for every situation. But the way that we've broken it down into 4 simple categories, so it becomes really simple, and then we also make it a lot more complex so people can break down all the different pieces and get whatever necessary healing is necessary. We break it down into 4 categories, what we call integrative planetary wellness. Some people might call that peace, but we break, instead of calling peace that label itself, because a lot of people have been criticized, it's kind of funny actually that you've got peace protesters who are being criticized for wanting peace in the world. So what we did is we broke it down into what we speak to as the process of wellness. So, and which is in the essence all of what peace is. And it is creating states of wellness on your personal level, social level, environmental level, and then the 4th is the integral level. And so when we are able to cultivate connection in each of these 4 categories, in personal, social, environmental, and integral health and wellness, we then have integrative planetary wellness. And so as what Eartwalk is venturing to do in a lot of our projects, partnering with a lot of different organizations and what have you, is to teach that fundamental process of how to reconnect with ourselves, with our communities, with our planet, and then the integration of those 3. And for everyone that looks different, and that's one of the beautiful things about being the unique human beings, the unique organizations, the unique businesses, the unique nation states, religions that we are, is that looks different. The process of healing actually looks different for everyone, even though the fundamentals are the same. And so the entire Earthwalk global platform supports individuals on what we call their soul walk, whether that's as an individual or eventually as a nation state. A nation can go through their journey, their soul walk, like what is their soul's journey as a nation, to get in touch with where are we feeling disconnected and how do we reconnect. And really that's the core essence of what I really want to share today, is that piece of peace, is that we make this process of creating a world of peace so difficult, in our minds so impossible, that would include, and truth of the matter is, there are many states of wellness that need to be addressed. As I was just speaking, the realm of personal wellness, how many people have depression, how many people have bipolar depression, how many people have OCD, all these different labels, which is really just coming down to where people are feeling disconnected. Those are just cries for help within someone's individual journey of how to reconnect. So the depression, as an example, is just the body's way of saying, hey, I'm feeling disconnected, and would you pay attention to me? And the same thing you can look at, for example, in society with homelessness, with poverty, with all those things. All it is the human body saying, hey, something's going on. Some of us are feeling disconnected. How do we then come back into connection? And so a society can look at these different social ills and get that all it is a cry for the tribe saying, hey, we're feeling disconnected, and what do we need to do to reconnect? And the same thing can be said on the environmental level. And so I think that's really the core essence of what I want to share today, that peace is possible as an individual, within collective settings, within the global sphere, no matter how destructive things might appear. I know for myself, I was speaking about depression. For myself, I journeyed in my life through, I think it was about 6 years of suicidal depression, and probably a total of 15 years in my life of really deep depression throughout my life. And this was a huge piece of what taught me how to do this. And one of the things that is true for me, and part of what inspires me, is if I'm, without going into major detail, I traversed some really dark places, and it was really difficult. Many times I did not know or did not think that I would actually make it through alive. And the fact that I was able to, and the fact that what made it possible was reconnection and reconnecting to myself. What is my purpose? What is my mission? Why am I here? Bringing that out into the world, having the courage to do that. And then also inviting others to do the same, because that also brought me joy, is inviting others into their mission, their purpose, their passion, and to support them to bring that out into the world. The entire Eartwalk organization is about how do we support and inspire people to get in touch with their personal mission, their gift to the world, and to give that. Because at the core, what Eartwalk believes, I'm sure many of you have heard the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, at Eartwalk, we believe it takes a planet to create a world of peace. That means it takes you, it takes me, it takes all of us getting in touch with what our personal gift is, what our mission is, what our piece of peace is, to collectively create, to co-create that world of peace. So anything's possible, and I know that when we look at some of the problems that we see in the world today, again, I just see those as invitations to dive deeper and to figure out solutions for massive connection, both inside, collectively, and worldwide. Have a beautiful day.